Blaze, 1909. Page 299, divide. 2 months we held out, held the line, held our heads high. We were so close. Then, last night the bosses hired translators, told the Italian girls we hate them. We strike only to be rid of them. No matter how we tried to lay bare their lie, this morning the Italian girls returned to their workstations. By day's end, our strike was broken. It is a tactic as old as the stars. Divide and conquer. 300. Blacklist. When a strike is over, when it's broken, most of the workers go back to their stools, go back to their stitches, even if nothing has changed. But for a special few, the instigators, the ringleaders, our names go on a blacklist. We cannot go back to work even if we want to. Waltz. Because I've been out of work for so long, Mama could not afford the kosher butcher this week. When I come home long after the others have gone to bed, a plate of oily lung goulash waits for me, cooling on the stove. Because I've been out of work so long, Nathan has left school, has taken a job at a pyrography shop. When I come home long after the others have gone to bed, our apartment smells of sawdust and singed wood. Strikers like marionettes dance through my dreams, waltzing through fields of orange-tipped flames. Uptown. I know I'll have to give a false name to find a new shop soon, but I cannot stay cooped up like so many pigeons on the rooftops of this city, waiting for a chance to fly. If I do not speak the words that I've been building up like a tower inside of me, ready to topple, I will last little more than a day in the next shop before they tumble out of me again. I do not even have the nickel fare for the subway running uptown, so after I drop 6 more membership cards at the union office, I walk all the way to Herald Square, where shiny storefronts sell the wares made in grimy shops in the slums. My English is not ready for a hearty debate, but the truth is simple. I can speak in simple sentences. I wait until a crowd gathers at lunch around the food carts. I step onto a stack of slippery dailies and shout, "Do you know how your clothing is made? You there." I point to a woman wearing a white shirtwaist tucked into an elegant skirt, holding the hand of a little girl with ribbons in her hair. Do you know that waist was made by teenage girls, some who make no more than $3 a week? Do you know that those shops hire girls your daughter's age to trim the threads when they should be in school? The crowd looks from me, to the woman, to the child, to their own clothes, white and pressed and clean. This corner of the street has fallen silent. I no longer have to shout. What will you do, I asked, to set things right? Honest. Louis Leeserson was one of us who moved up the ranks until he got a shop of his own. I hope. If I work for an honest employer, a man who respects the workers, I can bring home a wage to Mama and do my work for the union. On my morning walk to Leeserson's, I spot a cracked cobble in front of the bakery. Out of this sliver of exposed dirt, a little tree is trying to grow, no bigger than a weed, sprouting 3 tear-shaped leaves and reaching with impossible optimism toward the sky. A lot to learn, 306. I should have spent more time before learning English, but I could not help myself. I was so hungry for ideas. I had little time for primers and the domestic phrases that they teach in the classes for girls. I may not be studying for exams anymore, but if I want my voice to be heard by those who wield the power, I have a lot to learn still of English. If I have union meetings 2 nights a week, lectures to attend 3 nights a week, Shabbos Friday nights, still there is 1 night left for an English class. I practice under my breath as I pin and snip, try to make my tongue shake this thick accent as I tuck and twist and stitch. Overtime. After work outside the grimy doors of an underwear shop, Pauline and I press circulars into the sweaty hands of workers held at their stations without compensation long after the workday is done. We say, there's power in organizing. We say, you do not have to suffer alone. They take the papers, but sometimes it seems as if only the birds are listening. 308, a gift. I have given up trying to sit across the room from Joe. His particular smell of soap, press wash, and paper is familiar to me now, comforting even. In between the lecture on the importance of educating the lower class and the one on the eradication of child labor, he hands me a steno pad. For your words, he says. I nod, run my fingers over the crisp-lined white pages, tuck the book into my breast pocket of my coat. My voice is strong on the soapbox in the union halls, but if I speak now, I fear it will betray me. Lies, 310. Mr. Leeserson says, I respect the union. I respect the workers' rights. I only have to lay off workers because the fashion in sleeves has changed. He tells us this while he sends work to a second shop filled with Italian girls, working in squalor for half the pay. Mr. Leeserson lies, burn so hot, I think my skin will steam with the heat of it. Uninvented. When lunch is called and the delivery boys fill the doorway with their baskets of cake and pretzels and sliced cheese sandwiches, whispers work their way through the crowd of women at the door. The men vote tonight, yea or nay, to go on strike. We are not invited. That night I march into their meeting. The conversation stops as they swivel to stare at the girl who dares interrupt their business. I think how nice of them to offer me a space for my words. You will lose, I say. If you try to strike on your own without us, they will break you. It is only by standing together, men and women, that we can ever hope to outlast them. I do not wait for their answers. I have a lecture to attend tonight. If my words make them see reason, they can invite me to the next meeting. 313, soapbox. When I step onto a milk crate, my head is still no higher than the crowd, but my voice soars, like the kestrel circling above, punctuating my proselytizing with her. Killy, 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 killy. The throngs of people pause, tilt their heads, add their voices to mine. If I rise onto my tiptoes, I can see Pauline nodding, the company thugs frowning, Joe listening. Planning. Shuffle, deal, bluff, bet, fold, plot, plan. The men will not find us so easy to dismiss if we prove ourselves on the picket line beside them. Day after day after day. Vote, 315. The next night in a hotel room hazy with cigarette smoke, we lay out our demands, cast our votes, call for a joint strike. The whole shop, men and women, will walk out together tomorrow. We raise our right hands, invoke King David's psalm. If I turn traitor to the cause I now pledge, may this hand wither from the arm I now raise. I clench my jaw to keep from coughing the smoky air out of my lungs, to keep the stern, determined set of my face from melting into a wild, jubilant smile. 316, red light. Mr. Leeserson knows very well that his fight hinges on public opinion. He hires detectives, sets them like leeches on the skin to draw out the troublemakers, the infected blood. He pays prostitutes to mingle in our ranks and stir up trouble, start fights with the men, add color to the newspaper reports. He tells the papers we are ungrateful, ungodly girls. The men who strike with us are procurers in the oldest trade. If a woman is disobedient, she must be a prostitute. If a woman wants an education, she must be a prostitute. If a woman walks out on strike, of course, she must be a prostitute. It's hard enough to get the girls to walk out in the first place. Their families depend on the money they bring home. Then when the papers call the strikers whores, their fathers or husbands call them home again, forbid them to walk out with us. If I ever find the time to fall in love, I will surely choose a man who wants a thinking wife. Dent. The bosses have sugared the police. It does not matter if I cry out in Yiddish, Russian, English. Only that their clubs dent my flesh, break my will. Crack, double over, crack, crack, drop to my knees, crack, slump back, crack, crack, blinking. Blows fall like rain out of a perfectly blue sky. 319, part of me. The strike goes on without me for a day. The union sent me home to rest, to gather my strength, to summon my nerve. I want to say I'm fine. Those guerrillas did not rattle me. But today, I do not feel like a warrior. Brave, armored, fierce. I feel like a sparrow, harrying a hawk to save her clutch, a sparrow who only just escaped with her life. I will be back in front of Leeserson's tomorrow, but for now, I sit by the window watching the songbirds flutter and soar outside. Try to let my bruises heal, my head settle, let my worries flap away on their wings. Mama begs, no more fighting, no more picket lines. Please, Clara, no more. I sigh and say, it's part of me, Mama. Their suffering out there is part of me. Ask. I did not plan to speak so freely, but he is a fighter. He knows the toll a long, drawn-out battle can take. So when Joe asks how our strike is faring, how I'm holding up, my heart spills out of my lips before I even decide to respond. I never imagined it would take so long for the union men to work with us, for the girls to stand up for themselves. Some days I'm just so tired of fighting. Some days I want only to sit at the evening table with my family and feel no scorn, no disappointment, no heartbreak. Some days I wish I were some other girl. Someday I wish some other girl would fight this fight instead. He offers no easy answer, but what a difference it makes to be asked. 323, planning. Shuffle, deal, bluff, bet, fold, plot, plan. The girls will find strength in numbers, strength in a strike that stretches beyond the doors of a single shop. Starting with our own, Triangle and Leesersons marching to the same songs at the same time with the same voice. 324, Triangle. The leaves are turning burgundy, mustard, vermilion. When the wind blows, they dance like flames. Pauline says, you must stop employing children. The bosses say, what children? Pauline says, you cannot lock the factory doors from the outside. The bosses say, the workers are thieves. How else can we protect our inventory? Pauline says, you must repair the fire escape. The bosses say, let them burn. They are just a bunch of cattle anyway. And so today, while I march in front of Leesersons, 150 workers from the Triangle Waste Factory march in front of the Ash Building. The foremen sneer down from 9 stories up. Chant and march, march and chant, drowning out the clatter. Stitch, gather, stitch, gather, stitch, gather, stitch, gather of hundreds of machines upstairs. 326, slander. When the workday ends and the picket line closes, we hurry, heads down, shoulders hunched against the wind, against fallen leaves hurled like spoiled tomatoes against our skirts. The door of the union office sweeps open. We are folded into blankets, ushered into cushioned chairs. The woman who hands me a teacup filled and piping hot as much to warm my hands as anything has the soft skin on weathered cheeks, pitying eyes of a fine lady from uptown. I take the teacup and the pity too. She places a hand mirror, a delicate white kerchief on the chair beside me. This will never work, I say. To the room, to anyone who will listen, when my mouth has thought enough to open and close as it should. A few hundred of us on the picket lines, while so many thousands more wait at their workstations until their own suffering spills over onto the sidewalks. What we need is a general strike, all the shops together. No one gives in until we win. The room erupts into arguments. I lift the mirror to my eyes, wipe the specks of black grit onto the pristine cloth, wipe the day's slander from my cheeks. 328, so easy. Does a bone break easier on a cold autumn day when leaves crunch under boot heels and frost forms on anything that stands still, even for a moment? If they strike me today, will my bones shatter like an icicle falling from a rooftop, smashing against the ground? In the summer, I felt strong as an ox, dragging the plow behind me, carving the way to a better life. Now I'm the chaff left behind, covered in horror, brittled, exposed, so easy to break. 329, fresh. Worry is getting in the way of Joe's smile. He notices, though I try not to wince or whimper, if I take a wrong step, if I bump against the fresh bruises on my shoulders. He notices how often these gorillas hurt me. I cannot stop now, so what's the point of saying, I'm worried too. 330, fists. Every night has a sound. Some nights it's a muted lullaby seeping through a crack in a street side window that keeps time with my steps. Some nights it's the papery whispers of bat wings swooping between buildings. Some nights it's the calm quiet of glittering stars. Once I even heard an owl hooting. What could an owl want in this falling down forest of tenements? But the sound of this night is footsteps, and not only mine. First it was one set, stepping out from the shadows, falling in, following behind me. Then a second set of footsteps, heavier, faster, closing in. I whip around to face their fists to throw my own in return. They do not speak, but their message is painfully clear. Slap, scratch, punch, pummel, kick, spit, until the only sound is footsteps running away, blood dripping, pooling on the pavement. 332, Gorky. I wake in a cot at the hospital, bandages swaddling my head. I turn toward the wan light from the single high window above me. My vision is blurred, sleep-stirred. A small feathery body stirs, shakes its wings, lifts off the windowsill. After Mama and Papa have gone, Joe sits on the edge of my cot. He pulls a slim volume from his breast pocket and begins to read. Over the gray plain of the sea, winds are gathering the storm clouds. Between the thunder and the sea, proudly soars the stormy petrel, a streak of sable lightning. Now his wing the wave caresses. Now he rises like an arrow, cleaving clouds and crying fiercely. I fall asleep again, tears wetting the pillow beneath my bruised head.